All right, fantastic. So we'll start off with saying happy birthday to Kimberly, as this is your special day, and also a special day as you are coming onto our channel, Elite Vibrations. So thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. And hopefully your birthday is going with a bang at the moment.
Thank you. It's very...
Hi, Kimberly. I would just like to say happy birthday to you as well, and I hope you have a marvelous day.
Fabulous. All righty. So, honey, we're going to fire into it. We'll start off with in your interview that you did for my book called Nature Heals in 2020, you stated that you and your younger sisters were raped on a regular basis by your father, and this stopped when you were 9. When your father was taken to prison, will it be okay if you give the audience a brief overview of your childhood? Is that okay?
Oh, for sure. Okay, so I always find this question challenging because there's so much, right? So to make it brief, from the youngest age I remember, I started stuttering, and my language was very much impaired. I stuttered so much that I couldn't even get like a sentence or a word, even a consonant when it was at its worst. I had to go for 3 years of speech pathology. So in order to get it to where it is now. My childhood, so that's where it kind of started. I remember that. So, and then going through school, again, it was challenging. I didn't make friends very well, but I did have one friend and her name was Candace, and we kind of spent a lot of time together. So I did have her. And then my home life, obviously, as we had stated before, wasn't very good. My mother and my father were both addicts and they were alcoholics. I saw a lot of parties. There was many times where I was left to care for my sisters because I was the oldest, and and then the abuse on top of it was, like my parents split up. They separated when I was 7. And that's when the abuse got really, really bad. Like we were being abused and touched, and when my mom would leave the house and stuff. But it got really bad when they separated, and we started spending weekends and more nights with my father, and we were subjected to watching porn and all sorts of different things doing to him, and threats of violence. Those types of things, yes. So, and then when I was 9, he went to jail. There was a long investigation that happened where we were interrogated using dolls and all sorts of things to figure out what exactly had occurred. And he was later charged and convicted and went to prison before I was 10. We were then sent to foster care, and we didn't do very well there either. My sisters, like my youngest sister, Jennifer, avoided lots of it, but my sister Pam and I went through a lot of physical abuse. I was labeled a runaway very young in age because I was being abused in these homes and I didn't want to be there. And I also missed my mom, so I kept running away. And when I was 13, I was given the option of being able to go home. And the next 2 years of my life really, they were very, very hard. I suffered many different traumas in that time. And I was also subjected to drug abuse for the first time in my life, where my mom's friends had injected me with cocaine and morphine. So I had quite the interesting childhood. By the time I was 14 and a half, I had to leave home. My mom had, in a drunken rage, tried to kill me. She had put her hands around my throat. And then I phoned the police and they put me in a group home. So that was my brief overview of kind of what happened from the ages of 0 to 14 and a half. And then I was in charge of myself after that.
Oh, wow. So thank you. Obviously, it is not a laughing matter, as it's really serious for a young child to go through this traumatic experience with people that you trusted to care for you. You have good faith in them, that they were your caregivers and they were there to protect you. And that is what every child looks up to, and not to have to suffer what you went through. So that is really terrible. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, and hopefully this will help other individuals that have gone through such pain as you, and strengthen them to be able to fight and regroup themselves and find that there is a better life outside abuse.
Kimberly, could I just reiterate what Norm was saying? And I am so grateful that you're here today and you're sharing your story with, you know, the trauma that you've came through is harrowing, to say the least. And, you know, I've had some, you know, abuse in my life, but not to the degree that you've had abuse in your life. But thank you so much for being here today and for sharing with us. I'm going to keep my comments brief probably until the end, and just let Norma help you to get through it. All right. Thank you very much, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Okay, and then on the next one, you also mentioned in the interview for the book Nature Heals in 2020 that you started taking drugs at a young age, which you've just mentioned, I think you said 14, and stopped when you were 27 years old. What was the crucial turning point in your life at that time that made you decide that this life you were living was not what you wanted? And also, please, can you tell us, did you at that time start engaging in self-improvement courses similar to Peter Sage's EMF program? And how have you since maintained or practiced the lessons learned from the self-development courses or programs that you took to transform your life from the age of 27, when you decided that taking cocaine or heroin was not really for you? So what was that pivotal point that really hit the nail on the head?
So like I can't say there was one event, you know, I had many, right? And it was actually, if I said 27, what I meant was the course of 3 years. It took me 3 years to clean up my life. Okay, it wasn't just one day where I was, you know, an addict for the previous 10 years, and I said, oh, I need to quit using drugs today. That did not happen. It was a course of many things that had happened. I had been through lots of things. So there was the chaos in my life that was absolute crap. At the time, you know, I really didn't have a lot of self-esteem, and I felt really horrible and almost a burden to the world. And I felt that if I couldn't clean up my life, that there was no point in living it. And also with that, you know, family services had told me that if I didn't clean up my life, that they were going to take my son away for good. They were looking at adoption at that point. And then, you know, at the age of 21, I ended up going to jail for the first time in my life. And I went to jail for 4.5 years. Now, that was my first offense. I had never been criminally charged before that. And what had happened was the first time in my life I wanted to clean up was actually 21. I had my son, and I tried to clean up. I went on a methadone program here in Saskatoon, and the man I was with didn't want to clean up. Okay, so it was a very hard relationship. So when he was born, they took him from me, said I was incapable of taking care of him. And I had a nervous breakdown, and that caused me to go crazy. And I did a string of crimes that then sent me to jail. And when I got out, Norma, I was honestly, this is 27. I'm trying to clean up my life, and I'm trying to, figure out what that looks like, because I don't even have a picture for that at this point. And it took me another 3 years of going through detox. I went through Larson House here in Saskatoon 3 times before I eventually got it. And the third time I begged them to let me stay, because I just couldn't be on the streets anymore. And because I was homeless at this point. My mom had taken me in. And I went to Larson, and then I went to Calder. And when I went to Calder Center, that was a 3-week program here. And I did 6 weeks there because they let me apply for this extended thing, because I was trying to get into treatment center again. And then I got into a long-term treatment home, which was called Infinity House, through Comfy here in Saskatoon. And this was a family services oriented program that had a 0 tolerance policy for using drugs. And you had to submit for random screening, right? So, it took me until I was finished that to really solidify a solid recovery base. And even when I was in that house, I ended up relapsing for 1 day just before my 6 months. And so that was May 7th. When I cleaned up, my official date is May 7th, 2012.
So when you say you relapsed, was there someone bringing drugs in for you to have relapse?
No, I planned the whole thing, actually. It was my own self-sabotage. I didn't still have any tools. Like, they put you through these programs, but I didn't have any tools. I was going to NA, so I was going to meetings. My sponsor really wasn't helping me. This was my first sponsor, so it was different. She had her own stuff going on in her life, and she kind of just told me that she didn't have time for me, essentially, right? And so I was trying to get to meetings, so she would pick me up, but we weren't doing any work, right? And so I would go to meetings, I was listening to people's stories, I was going home thinking about using drugs all day. It's kind of like the model that they use in the program is that you go to meetings, and then you never really quite understand how to get out of that trap of thinking you're terminally ill and never going to get better. And so that's how I felt.
So in a sense, they just kind of say, okay, you just have to go cold turkey, but they're not giving you any instruments like more education to be able to know what to do when you get triggers, etc. So they didn't build you up. They just accepted you to just move on.
Yeah, essentially. Like, there was some programming, but it had nothing to do with understanding addictions. It was really, I've done a lot of addiction programming today. Okay. Like, I've got a lot of different things under my belt today. And I would say that the stuff I learned in those recovery houses, Calder wasn't so bad, but the best stuff I learned, honestly, was a thing called a relapse prevention plan. And I learned that in jail in a program called WOSAP. Okay. WOSAP, Women's Substance Abuse Programming. Wow. And it was geared specifically to women and triggers, and developing a relapse prevention plan, looking at different areas of your life, setting goals. Like, it was the best thing I'd ever seen, actually, to this day, for addiction programming.
Yeah. you would actually recommend that type of program for anybody wanting to get off heavy drugs, heroin, etc.?
Absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic. So that is quite good. So when you were going through this thing, as you said, it was a family-oriented program. Did they let you see your son so that you can build that bond during that time?
So it was very interesting. So again, because I had lived my life through the system, I had lots of interesting challenges come up with that as well. Personally, the other women, and I had to get a child advocate involved actually, because they weren't letting me see my son. I was getting very minimal visitation. I had to get a child advocate involved, and the child advocate actually helped me get my son for the visitations within 2 months of having this conversation. It was really that they were just trying to bully me. They didn't think that I would clean up my life. They didn't think that I had much of a chance. And then like the statistics were 100% against me. Like I'm going to be honest, you know? So I can see where they would get that bias, but they shouldn't have had that bias in my case load. And so when that was pointed out, because it was clear, it was very clear that's how it was going. I got my son. I did the programming. I jumped through all the hoops that they asked me to, and then some. And I've been clean ever since. Like I have not had any relapses since 2012. And I rather enjoy my life. I have not had to put drugs or think about putting drugs in my body for a long time. My life doesn't consist of thinking that I'm terminally ill. I actually really, you know, I have this motto, and this is really where it is today. And this is what I tell people in addiction that need to get out or that have issues around this, is build a life that you would never use in again.
That is a great motto to take out of this, is build a life that you are not using today, right?
That you'll never want to use in again.
That's fantastic. And it's such a shame though, when you're saying that these drug programs just kind of like anyway set you up to fail. In a sense, I'm sure there's many people who are wanting to get out of it, but obviously if the person, like you said, your sponsor that they just lumbered you with wasn't really supporting you, and the whole system is just designed to say, oh well, this person is a write-off or whatever, so they're setting you up to fail. So that's probably why people relapse and go back, relapse and go back, and so on. So what would you say as a closing into this as being what would be the best program that will build people up to win from the start and not give them the impression, as you put it, terminally ill? So when you say terminally ill to somebody, from my perspective as a clinical person, means that they're going to die within a period of time, like 2 months, because that's what we do in the hospital. When you say to someone you're terminally ill, you're just giving them a death sentence. So in a sense, they're already, when they say you're terminally ill. So did someone actually tell you that you're terminally ill, or you took it to mean that way when they were, through their attitude and mannerism in treating you?
This is my studying actually over time. So I'm sure if you talk to, I have this other friend, his name is Paul Knowles, and he wrote a book. He's a recovery coach as well. And so he actually calls it the chronic brain illness. Okay. And so that's an exact quote from him. And then there's, I call it terminal illness, because when you walk into a meeting, you call yourself an addict. You're not a recovering addict. You're just an addict.
Okay.
Now, everything I know today tells me that that is wrong. Okay. If I tell myself an addict, a kinesthetic, like if you use kinesthetic testing, you're going to find out that it damages the nervous system. Okay. It damages it and you become weaker when you tell yourself those things. It's like self-esteem. If I tell myself I don't like myself every day, okay, I'm probably not going to like myself.
That's
okay.
right.
So when I look at telling myself I'm an addict, that's a death sentence to me.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I look at that like, and I think that's not what I am though. I'm a recovering addict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm somebody in recovery. I'm active in my recovery. So there's a difference between the noun and the verb, right? So, and here in Saskatoon, I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere else, but I've had different takes and you know, COVID's been really, really tough on people. And so my mindset today is key, and I'm really tough on it. I'm really tough on it. And because if I'm not, I let it slide. And so when I'm tough on my mindset, then I feel like I have clarity. I feel like there's more hope. I feel like there's just more purpose in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's what I'm working for. And that's where I want to be. I think the experiences I had were a lack of education, a lack of mentorship.
Absolutely.
And I think we're just starting to get on like the doorstep of what things really are and what they look like in this. I have people reaching out to me all the time asking me, Kim, how do you do it? And it's like, it's not how, it's enjoy life. Enjoy the life you have. You know, I didn't enjoy life before. I didn't know what that looked like. And
I think it's actually then, as you said, so to take out of this is the key thing is mindset. And as you've said, when you go into these meetings and they're telling you, you're saying, I am an addict, therefore, that is just going into your mind, going round and round. You're not separating your I am, and then the addict is just an experience that I went through or a condition I went through. So it's like, I am Kimberly, because that's you, beautiful you, unique you. But addict is what I experience. So that is a good way that, as you rightly say, that's the key thing here is these addict centers to use the right language, because language is everything. We learn how to speak when we're children, and then you grow up with that. You formulate sentences and formulate the way the world is through language. So what would you say would be the best language to interpret to other people? Because you've said that's your key skill of saying, my mindset was what made me get through it. So what exactly helped you to build your mindset? What was in your mindset? Because I guess you had to re-educate yourself as your mind was just polluted, I guess, as being the right way to say it. So how did you then get that pollution out to bring in the great part in to then say, I am strong, this is my mindset moving forward? Obviously, you had the push or the initiative because you had your child that you were holding on to and that you wanted. So that was, I guess, a good thing that really you wanted to hold on to and gave you hope.
That was part of it. So that started the journey. I actually met, so through massage, I've met some interesting people. And so I ended up getting one of my coaches, because he's one of my clients through my massage. And so Parker, there's Dave and Parker, but Parker specifically, okay, so like this is where Peter Sage really comes into my life here, is because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about anything. And he started talking about the 4 levels of consciousness. And then he talked about the concepts of to me, by me, through me, and as me, right? And, you know, he got me really familiar with those concepts. And then he got me reading David Hawkins.
Wow.
And so I really like David Hawkins today. And I'm a very, very, very big fan of the Map of Consciousness. I actually used that book specifically to understand the different layers of my disease, or the dis-ease in my body, as I would call it. And like before it was dis-ease, it's just changed so much. So my consciousness, because of Parker, because of Dave, because of all the books, Peter Sage has been Peter Sage, Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, Abraham Hicks. These have all been my mentors for the last 5 years. I've been more heavy into Bob because that's where they led me. I have these people in my life that I just got led to Bob. And so it's been brilliant. You know, I've been very fortunate to learn some great things. And I've been able to, Parker gave me the idea of opening a massage business. So, you know, with all the development and stuff, you know, that's where it comes from. I love my massage. I absolutely love it. I learned it when my mom was dying, and it's turned into a very beautiful gift here that I have. And so, yeah, it's my healing when I help others. And so, I know some people would like me to talk more about recovery and do this and do that, but massage is what I love to do.
But that is fantastic. So on that note, that is how your journey through, where like the phoenix, you rose from the ashes and your unique you, which is fantastic. That leads us nicely to the next question here. Which says now that in the interview for the book Nature Heals, you mentioned that for a long time you suffered from this void inside yourself that created insecurity, lack of self-confidence. What actions did you take into your life to heal this void, which I think we've already touched on that, where you, Bob Proctor, Peter Sage, and David Hawkins, where you then learned about the map of consciousness, re-educating yourself. So we've touched on that one. That's grand. The next one, once you made your decision to change your life, what steps did you take to make that change? For example, what gurus inspired you? I think you've said already Peter Sage, all right. Gosh, we're moving along quite nicely. And so on the next one, who were the influential people at that time in your life? Or what was the catalyst in your journey of transformation that made a positive difference to aid your development?
So I'm going to blame my friend Dave for this one. You know, I think I mentioned this in your book too. You know, the one day he tried to sell me this program called Thinking into Results, and I was dead set against it. I wasn't going to do it. For 6 months, he's like, Kim, you got to do this. You got to do this. And then finally he said, Kim, I'm trying to help you. And I heard nothing else. I heard nothing else until that point. I walked out his door that day and I thought, what the hell is he trying to help me with? And I was even more confused in what happened. And so I phoned him, and he sold it to me on a business idea. He's like, okay, this is going to help your business development. And then it was all mindset. And I thought he was nuts. And then he took me into a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And that's what changed everything. Yeah, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell D. Maltz. That book changed everything for me, because until that point, I had lived by circumstance and my environment, and I had taken all of it on. And I also blamed myself for my whole life. right? And in that book, he talks about your brain being a computer. And he talks, and I remember in grade 10 computer science learning that they built the computer off your brain. So it really, like, it just, boom, it was like a light bulb that went off in my brain. And I was like, hey, I can program my brain. I don't have to be what I was. The program I had given to me was the wrong one.
Excellent.
So that was really the catalyst for everything.
Fantastic.
Kimberly, that is awesome. Up to now, your story's given me goosebumps. To see what you came through, the adversity you came through and where you are just now. And I've read that book, Psycho-Cybernetics. I've got that in my audio, and wow, I haven't listened to it for a long time. So you've just inspired me to get it back out. But you've mentioned all the greats there, Bob Proctor, you know, and you've got a few favourites. I've got a few favourites as well. You know, the Abraham Hicks stuff, and it's all meaningful and it's all here to help us now. But your story's been amazing. I myself am familiar with the 12-step program, and I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and they say similar things. That it doesn't, you know, it helps you with, you know, staying off alcohol, but it doesn't give you a plan for your life or a map for your life, you know, and like how to go about living your life, picking up the pieces and going about it step by step, because you're just like, my God, my life is a mess. Where do I go from here? You're just like in this absolute black hole. So you've come through it amazingly well. You know, it's like my story is my story, you know, and the only person that can walk my path is me, and the only person, so my story feels worse than yours, you know, although it's not to you, you know, it's like my sore finger's worse than your broken leg, you know, but I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I'm excited that you're here, and it's just, you're just an amazing person, and I'm glad you are where you are now. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Maggie.
Okay, Grant, thank you for that. So basically, you then took this program that your friend recommended, and because it was a catalyst for supporting you in your business. So did that, after you finished that program, you implemented all the goals and steps that you went through, and did that then improve your mindset and your business as a whole?
So I didn't implement everything the first time. Okay, like, let's be honest here. Okay, it took me a while to really get rid of, you know, some nasty habits. Like, I had a lot of procrastination. I was really resistant to a lot of different concepts. And then Bob talks a lot about paradigms. I think I've worked through a few layers of that, and I'm certain I have lots more to work through. I've got a whole lifetime ahead of me here. So, you know, it's just interesting, all the different things, right? I think, oh, I kind of lost track here. What was the rest of that question?
The question was, after you've done the program, which your friend recommended, did you take all or some of what the program taught and implemented it into your life and the business?
So the exercise I used specifically out of Psycho-Cybernetics, I did use, so I had a workbook for thinking into results, and I used that, but I was not consistent. I used a specific exercise out of Psycho-Cybernetics that talks about creating a new identity.
Excellent.
And so I created what he said. I created this brand new self-image. And I made a goal, like, because Bob talks about C goals, I had an ABC goal ready to go with that. And then, so I kind of just made this step-by-step plan
Fantastic.
of how I was going to become this person.
Wow.
And and then I made a vision board on top of it. And that was all I implemented out of that first course. And that first book, that was the first book I read of personal development, was Psycho-Cybernetics. And that was 4 years ago now. So yeah, like I have everything that I put on that vision board. And not that I collect material things. My seagull, and I love sharing my seagull, because I think this is what, when I look at everything and everybody in my life, and I look at what's different with me, my seagull wasn't monetary. Okay. As much as I would love to have money, and as much as I would love to have, financial security, which I'm working on, we're getting there. Takes time to build that stuff. My seagull was to develop every God-given ability that I have. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to be a different human being genuinely. And I was willing to move to that no matter what. And
Wow.
So that's what my seagull was, is that I wanted to develop all of my God-given abilities. And so for the last 5 years, that's what I've been slowly doing. And so like originally the goal was to become a Chinese medicine doctor. And, I had all this stuff. I'm really content being a massage therapist. And, I don't need all the degrees and all that stuff. I already have lots of certificates. I don't need that either. I just really enjoy working with people. I really enjoy the manual therapy that I do. I love rehabilitation. That is my thrive. I work with physio and doctors here in the city. I'm very sought out as a massage therapist. So why would I change all that? It's beautiful. What I'm doing is beautiful. It's helpful. It has meaning. It gives me purpose. It helps me grow as a human being, because I can never learn enough. I have this obsession for learning more. And so it really creates that for me. So there's just so many things. No, it's a very, very complicated question.
But I think basically your ABC goal, and as your C goal is which you said you wanted to create all your God-given abilities. I love that. That is just beautiful. Wow. And you have, as you said, developed these God-given abilities.
Working on it. I'm working on it.
But you have, in a sense. So I guess as we're talking about language, in a sense, you are on that path already. You've got this massage business, and you're working with the doctors in rehab and so forth. That is, you're already doing your God-given gifts, your C goal. So that is like tick. You've done it. So you've got to tick it off your book. Anything else is just, what can I say, decoration. You're just decorating. Yeah, you agree?
Yeah. So I have that, and I have my yoga practice. I have so many beautiful things that I just love in my life today. And I don't know, life is good.
Fantastic. Okay, and question 5. Did you at that time during your self-development transformation go through difficult moments, which I think you've already highlighted, where you felt you couldn't maintain the course of changing and found yourself wanting to revert back to your old life of drug addiction? What was the pinnacle element that was your grounding force that kept you on your path of self-transformation?
So I would say that, so at 4 years of recovery, 3 years actually, between 3 and 4, my mom died. And so that, you know, and I took care of her from like 1.5 years clean until her end of life. So like we connected. I read recovery literature to her. She had asked me at one point how I'd become so happy. She didn't understand, right? Like she was miserable. She had been traumatized herself and she had lived a very miserable life. And so when I was taking care of her, she was able to find something in me, and I was able to show her something that was different. And so when she died, it sent me into a severe depression. I was very, very low. And school, believe it or not, I had gotten into school 3 months before she died. It's almost like everything in my recovery has been given to me at some point. It just, bam, something happens and then something happens, right? And so in that, I went to massage school because I had hoped that I could learn enough to save her, unfortunately.
Wow.
And it didn't happen. So I really just kept learning and learning and learning. And eventually it came down to my health. Like I was physically not well. And I started learning so that I could get well. And I dedicated my life now, like my life is all dedicated to not ever, ever, ever having to be like that again. Or like my mom died at 54. And all of my aunties are dead. All of my uncles are dead. I have 2 left that were feuding with my mom before she died. So I've never even seen them really. And so I refuse to get that ill. I want, like Peter Sage and Tony Robbins talk a lot about physical vibrancy, right? You can't do what you want to do if you're not physically vibrant. And so I'm really big on that, right? And that's where my yoga practice came in. And I really started learning and connecting with my body and really started understanding the difference between what's here. Like I was learning lots of knowledge before that, you know, and I was taking it in, but it was yoga that really started integrating the mind and the body understanding, because before it felt very separate. And I had read Joe Dispenza's books, and I had watched lots of things about the mind and heart coherence. And I just, you know, and I was trying so hard
to connect the two.
It was just, and then yoga for me, you know, I really started appreciating and being grateful. And so in my yoga practice, to keep it short, I have this mantra again, is I love you, I'm sorry, and I'm grateful. Wow. So this comes from, I love you because I didn't love you. I'm sorry because I caused this pain. If I'm feeling pain in my body, I've caused it. So I caused it. And I'm grateful that I can feel it today because I couldn't before. I was numb.
Oh, wow.
So my yoga practice has become a spiritual foundation.
So is this in the yoga? What type of yoga are you doing that has that mantra, or is that you're making the mantra?
That's my mantra that I use for my yoga practice. So I do two yin practices a week. I do two yin, two vinyasa flow, and then I also do 2 hot 26.
Okay.
And then sometimes, so I also like hatha fusion. So sometimes I'll throw a hatha in on the Wednesday, depending on how my body is feeling.
Wonderful. Wow.
I like them all.
That is incredible. And also that mantra actually, did you kind of get it also from Louise L. Hay? Because she talks about that, the mirror exercise, where she says, do the mirror exercise and you say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Did you get it from there?
That's in your book. I do remember reading that specifically. And so it comes from that in a way, but like I had to work through a lot of pain in the yoga room. So I did remember that. And that's where I love you, I love you, I love you comes from, because it has to be that you love yourself first, right? But then I added, you know, the gratefulness, because the pain in our bodies, so many, I find, so we have this yoga word, the pandas in the room, or the, you know, we've got all these different names for people, right? And so the tough bodies, right, they kind of just, well, and I was the panda. I was a tough body, and I didn't want to feel my pain, so I just pushed through it. And so today, the gratefulness and the sorry is because I'm not supposed to push, and I'm supposed to listen.
True.
So it's my mantra to remind me to listen.
Wow. That is actually the key when you're saying that you didn't feel. So when you were taking the heroin and things like that way before, you were taking it because you were hiding the feeling and then it numbed you then, or?
Yeah. So I remember pot was the very first drug I ever tried. I didn't continue smoking pot for a long, long time. Once I got into the heavier drugs, it faded out as fast as everything else did. But that was the first drug. And I went to my mom's friend to get it because they were smoking all the time. And I thought that was an easy way to get it. So I offered him some money and I got it. And I went to my garage, and I remember almost blacking out on the floor. Like, I don't know if it was laced or whatever. It was the first time I smoked pot. But anyway, I was laid out on the floor, seeing stars just about. And I remember for the first time in my life, well, I don't feel pain. And it was euphoric. And it took me out of my own neuroticism.
Oh, wow.
And it was a very different experience. It was almost hallucinogenic in that way. So I don't know if that one was laced. Okay, because I had smoked pot many times after that. It was not the experience I had. Anyway, yeah, like that was the very first time, and I was about 10 and a half when I tried that.
Yeah.
So, but again, that was the experience. It was euphoric. It took me out of what I was feeling, how I like, it wasn't just like, we say feelings, but when I say feelings, like this was emotional, physical, mental torment, okay, is what I had felt already at this age. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just a feeling, like it was more than that. And so this took me out of that. So I was immediately connected.
Right.
Okay. So when people gave me drugs after that, like it's the first time I tried cocaine, it was the same experience, only I had a fever, and I was babysitting at the time for my mom's friend, and she didn't have any Tylenol in the house. She thought it was a good idea to give me cocaine.
Oh my God.
And the same idea. I had this experience where it was like immediately the pain was gone.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying, is that instant gratification for that pain, that torment, that yeah, it was very, very relieving, I guess, is the idea, right? And so I can see why addiction gets people, and I can see why it's hard to get out. Yeah, it's hard. You know what I mean? It's not going to be easy. And I think this goes into the last question, but but you know, it's not easy to get out, and it's hard. Les Brown. So here's another guy that I followed for a little while. So Les Brown has a famous saying for saying, if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. And if you do what's easy, your life will be hard.
True.
So this is really where it comes down to in my life. Okay, so for me, drugs were easy. I could put drugs into my body and it gave me a temporary relief, and like everything else in my life was crap. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Or I can do what's hard and I can learn how to be better, and I can conduct myself over time. And as Peter Sage talks about it, start where you're at and work from there, right? And create a sequence and create a plan or whatever it is you got to do, right? Psycho-cybernetics, again, you know what I mean? It helped me. It helped me because at first I was very angry, very, very angry. Okay. And so how I got out of the anger was the book told me that I could yell at myself. The book told me I could yell at myself. So here, every time I wanted to yell at somebody, because the people in my household were very gentle people, which was a blessing, because I was this hardened individual trying to get along with these nice people. And I felt horrible every time I would yell. So every time I wanted to yell, it'd be like, Kim, shut up. Don't talk like that. You know, and so like I was hard on myself to start with, but I was like a drill sergeant in my head, literally telling myself, don't do that. And you know, so that's where it comes from, is you have to train your mind, you have to be diligent, consistent every day. If you can't do it for yourself, you got to find something to listen to or read something that's going to put you there. Okay. I personally like Abraham Hicks, Getting into the Vortex. That's kind of my personal favorite in the morning. But for a long time, it was Lead the Field. I took Lead the Field during COVID through Bob Proctor again, through Parker. And so I think that was a blessing for me, because, you know, people were really struggling at COVID. And I really felt like I breezed through it. And, you know, I learned a lot about immunology. So, you know, in my studies in the last 5 years as well, you know, through my holistic massage, I'm a Thai massage therapist by trade. That's what I'm trained in. But in my spare time, I'm sorry.
Sorry, not you.
Somebody. Okay. Yeah. So in my training, my hobbies now are herbal health and Chinese medicine, and that's been because of my own health, right? And so it's just been a blessing to be able to learn all of these different things and be able to protect myself in the best way I know how, and put this into my practice as much as I can and help others. And just, yeah, I just love everything about my life today.
That is fantastic. So basically, so that's how, when you started, as you, just to sum up, when you started the pot and then the harder drugs, was because to numb that excruciating, deep-seated pain that obviously you had endured as a child, from 0 upwards. So when you then stopped, then what took over? Because the drugs were cancelling the pain, so that you can move on with your life and be normal. Well, not normal, but, you know, get on with the day-to-day nonsense. But then when you took that away, what did you put in there to sustain you, so that you then, even if you felt the pain, you were still able to not divert backwards, but go forwards?
It's just education.
Education. Awesome.
Education and determination. And like, I think, so there's obviously a plan that you need physical. Okay. You need something physical, so it keeps you busy. You need something to keep you intellectually stimulated, right? And then you also need to find something that drives you. Okay, so whatever that looks like, right? I personally found it interesting to become interested in myself, right? I found that to be interesting. So that's where I have taken everything I know today is just Peter Sage. Like I said, I started with Peter Sage, the 4 levels of consciousness. That's how basic it started with me, right? I started there, and I'm sure there's more. I haven't even elaborated on that concept a hell of a lot. You know, I got a very basic understanding of it, in my opinion. And then I moved on to David Hawkins, right? And then slowly I've been in a circle, just kind of dancing around through information for the last 5 years. And I feel very blessed to have that. I've been very open to have that. You know, I think before that, I just wasn't open to that, right?
Yeah. That is awesome. Also, just to, I meant to touch on this point before we left the discussion about your mom, if you will indulge me, sorry. When you said you were nursing your mom or caring for your mom, did you help her to go through her detox, or was she already detoxed when she became ill?
Yeah, so my mom actually had many different illnesses. I took care of her for her cancer. She had multiple myeloma, or bone marrow cancer. But prior to that, she was diagnosed with HIV. When I was about 15 years old, she was diagnosed with the HIV. And so the HIV just kind of took her for a long, long time, and she cleaned up and moved her life into a different way. But again, she became what I would call a dry drunk. Okay. She did not do really any work. She didn't understand that dealing with some of her traumas would help her heal. And so she lived with all of that and continued to just, like, she wasn't very happy. She was a very miserable lady. And so when she saw me at 1.5 years clean, happy somewhat, and then like I was still miserable at this point, okay? But she saw me as happy. Anyway. And then we were able to share, right? And because she wanted to know, right? And she found some faith. And before she died, I remember holding her hand. And this was probably hours before her death, but I was holding her hand when she was in the home. And, you know, I told her, it's okay. You know, it's okay. We've made our amends, Mom. You know, I love you. It's okay for you to go. And Grandma's waiting for you. So, you know, we made our amends, and I was able to move on from there. And people might think I'm kind of crazy, but she's still with me.
No, I think that is the most incredible key point there to your personal growth and mind growth, because as you said, you were abused and your mom was there. So I guess some of that anger that you said you had was obviously towards your mom not protecting you. So it's incredibly amazing that you were able to overcome that, you know, and come to amends with it. As you said, you talked through with her. So that is incredible.
It's hard when, you know, when you're taking care of someone. And, you know, it was really a crucial point when you're taking care of someone you care for. And then one day you walk into their room and they have no idea who you are. And they're afraid of you. Yeah. She thinks you're there to kill her. And, you know, I had to walk out of her room. I closed her door because she was screaming at me. And I closed her door, and I said, Kim, you have to go back in there with compassion, empathy, and you have to be strong. This is not about you. This is about getting her to where she needs to be. And I think that's where really everything changed, is because it stopped being about me. You know, I felt guilty before that, and I felt like I had to take care of her.
Yeah.
Whereas now I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, and it changed. So when she kind of lost her mind, because she was kind of delirious for probably 6 months before she died, it changed me completely. It created a whole nother level of, I didn't understand humility or compassion or empathy before that point, in my opinion. And I still, you know what I mean? I felt it for the first time then, in a really big way. But today it's even changed more so, you know what I mean? It's, I still had a rotten attitude back then. And I, you know, like I have my days, you know, everybody does. Everybody has days where they're not at their 100%, you know, but I listen to something. I deliberately take myself out of there because I don't want to stay there. And so that's kind of the key of it all, right? Is, you know, learning how to live in a different way that's conducive to feeling good, staying in the vortex, and excuse me, and you know, not letting everything hit you at once, because life is overwhelming. Life is very overwhelming. Mine, you know what I mean? When I wrote everything down, I had over 40 traumatic events happen before I was 14 years old. And that was overwhelming to look at when the first time I wrote it down.
40 traumatic events. That is
before I was 14.
Wow.
Okay. And that's not including my drug abuse yet.
wow.
So, and that was the, you know, and in some cases I was more horrible to myself, I would say. So, you know, like to come through and to feel like, I have another friend, she says, how come you're so happy? But I have these experiences where I took care of my mom, you know, my fiance, he's the blessing of my life. I met him 4.5 years ago, just after my mom died. And he's loved me so much that he really taught me how to love myself in a whole nother way. And, you know, we plan to get married next year on my birthday. And so
I am
like
maid of honor.
And he's, you know, he's just a beautiful human being. And so he also comes from different stuff, and not the best life either. And he learned how to be a beautiful human being too. And so now we're taking these two, well, as I like to call it, diamonds in the rough. And, you know, we have a plan moving forward, right? That's so
amazing. So your partner, what is his name? We've got to put a name to his name.
His name is Ashley.
Ashley, that's a gorgeous name. So Ashley is really your rock, and your
Yes.
two boys, what are their names?
There's Christopher and James, and these are my babies. They are my lights.
So
my lights.
Ashley, Christopher and James, your three pyramids that are you grounded. That is just incredible. So as with that, which leads us quite nicely to our last point, which is, what advice would you give to these viewers? I think you've kind of thrown in a lot of stuff in there. So just to give like pointers, so anyone watching this and is wanting to go to rehab for drug abuse or whatever, So maybe just little points of what advice would you give them, like a 10-point advice or 5-point advice that they can hopefully just stick in the mind and be able to go with it? Because you've said quite a lot and amazing information, but somebody going through a drug rehab program may not all sink in. So maybe it's an ABC type thing, then they might say, okay, the C was this.
You want a formula?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one, a formula.
Okay. So my daily routine, okay, consists, I get up at 5 a.m. I'm not telling everybody has to get up at 5 a.m., but Ashley and I, we get up at 5 a.m. and we meditate. Meditation has been paramount in my life. Okay. I do not skip it. It creates focus. It helps you stay consistent, and it improves your memory and you become smarter. There's just so many reasons why you should meditate. Okay. So meditation, right? Second, do something physical. You have to have something to keep yourself busy. Okay. And to exert the extra energy you have. Okay. If you are bored, you have to do something. And that doesn't mean put drugs in. Okay.
No,
So,
activity.
Okay. Third, do what you love. Find something that gives you purpose. Okay. This is key. You have to love what you do. Have to. And it helps if you have a person to help you along with that. So if you find the right person that empowers you to create that life, that's a bonus. Okay. Enjoy life. And that's really the last point. Okay. Enjoy your kids.
Is that like point 3, find the right peer group, as Peter said?
Yes. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, exactly. Peer group. Right. Yeah, that's the perfect word, peer group. And then, your family, right? Like my family is my highlight, right? I have my business, I have my goals for other stuff, but I make my family life the pinnacle. We work together. Okay. We do stuff together. Like this summer, we bought a park pass. Okay. We went to the beach every weekend when it was sunny, and like we do stuff together. We have fun together. Right. So if you're going to stay away from drugs or addiction or alcohol, whatever it is that you do, okay, it doesn't matter what it is. It's important to have that enjoyment in your life. You have to enjoy it. Like, and I think that's 5. So meditation, right, is my daily thing.
Physical activity.
So I do yoga at 9:30 every morning. I listen to something that inspires me, or I do something inspiring. I have my peer group, which, I talk to a coach probably, I have lots of them in my life. I have 3 of them that are personal friends. So,
Lucky you.
So I get a lot of really good advice, I should say. And then enjoy life, right? It's just about, having fun, right? If you hate your life, nothing you do is going to be worth anything.
True.
Like you can't enjoy it. So I don't know. This is really, really just the keys in my life. Like it's really that simple. I just switched it from being, okay, well, today I'm going to use drugs to today, well, no, I'm going to be happy. Yeah. How can I do that?
Yeah.
Right. And start brainstorming around how can I be happy rather than how can I use drugs?
Good. Yeah. So brainstorming. And then you talked about mind maps and stuff like that. Is that also in this plan, the ABC formula?
Oh, so the ABC, that's goal setting. So that's a whole nother thing. So ABC goals. A goals are things you know how to do. B goals are things that you could see yourself doing. Okay. And C goals are things that are impossible.
Okay.
or absolutely completely out there that you've never done before, that you're going to have to learn something in order to be able to do. Okay. That's kind of the thing. So if you set goals like that for yourself, and if you set a C goal that you work to master throughout life, which in my opinion, developing my God-given abilities over a lifetime, okay, can be quite magical, I think. So, you know, I think when I'm 80 years old, who knows what my life's going to look like? It's going to be awesome. Okay. I really think it's going to be awesome. I think it's awesome today, but you know, who knows? Right. So that's kind of the idea, is that, so my A goal is something I know how to do. Okay. Well, today I have to market my business. That's my goal for today. Okay. My A goal for 3 months from now is, okay, is my marketing effective? You know, those types of things. Right. Or is my so I have personal and I have business goals, right? So set both. Don't just set one.
Yeah.
Because you get offset.
Okay.
So that's ABC, personal and business, right? So whatever that looks like. So if you want something in your life, set that goal, and then set the goal for your mindset, or what is it going to take you to grow into that goal, right? So like I said, I created that self-image, right? I had to learn a whole whack of stuff in order to be the businesswoman I wanted to be, right? So I didn't know anything about business then. I still don't. But the idea is that I had to really grow. Okay. I had to move into that. So the personal goal was, okay, well, maybe I want to become nicer. Maybe I want to have a nicer tone to my voice. Maybe I want to show more enthusiasm. Maybe I want to, you know, like those types of things, you know, and then you add that. Okay, so what does that mean as a business person? Okay, well, that means people like me. That means, you know, I'm outgoing. That means I can network, right? And so like it balances on both sides, right? You can just use them both for whatever. So that's kind of the idea. Is I wanted things in my life to change, so I made a plan to change it. And business and personal goals.
However, for people that are actually homeless and coming out of drugs, they may not have business or have any idea of business. So the simple thing for them is love yourself, do meditation, family. And if they don't have family, like their family were abusing them like yours, so obviously they won't have that link, is to find
Here's.
Okay. So that is the 3-step formula. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I guess that is a wrap. I think that's fantastic. So we have our 3-step formula for rehab. Should we, on point 4, should it be, as you said, when you were going through the rehab, they were setting you up to fail. So how can they put as point 4 to overcome that setting up to fail through these rehab organizations? As you say, they don't really put that much effort into your mindset rehabilitation.
Well, it has to be mindset. So I guess I left that out. I did say it a few times. Peter Sage, I would start with really understanding the 4 levels of consciousness, if that's what you were trying to get me to go to. The map of consciousness and the way he teaches that concept, I highly, highly, highly 100% recommend. It was powerful for me to just get through the victim mentality and really start to understand how to move into the different levels. Again, David Hawkins is the book I would recommend behind that, you know, to kind of really accentuate what Peter has to say.
Fantastic. And obviously also the inside track, which is, I think that's where Peter talks about the David Hawkins mind control.
Yes, he does have that map in there, but I found it helpful to use both books, but like I really like to delve into, there was things, so when you talk about that book specifically, it talks about how to move through guilt, how to move through, like the different chapters in the book give you the different levels of the consciousness, and then you can move through them, right? Accordingly.
Oh, that sounds good. Okay, so that's then on the formula of rehab from whatever addiction one might be going through. That is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, Kim. And Maggie, did you want to add on anything on that?
Thank you, Kimberly, again. I've just been fascinating listening to you, and I think I need to hear the recording again, because there was so much information that you gave out. Amazing. You've absolutely flipped your life roundabout. So where could the viewers come? You know, do you have a website or a Facebook page that the viewers could come and find you if they needed any help with their massage therapy or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.intuitivehandsmassageandwellness.com. And so, yeah, on the web, like it's just a general massage, Thai massage website. But when people come into my room, we use a variety of therapies and modalities to, I've recently started working with chakras and getting down to the nitty gritty of healing, I think, is where I'm at. And I really enjoy that portion of the somatic part. And so, yeah, I think that's, yeah, it's a nice website. There's more stuff going on there constantly. I just had this one built. I'm working to build a YouTube channel with all different kinds of stuff on it for healing, self-therapy, those kinds of things. But the blog is also there if you want to learn more about kind of my story and just different things I talk about.
And also your Facebook. You've got intuitive
right.
On your Facebook, isn't it? So this will also be on the links down below on this video. So if you look down below, there will be all this information, the website, Facebook, blog. So those that are obviously in Canada that can travel to Kimberly's massage parlor, then they can be able to do so. Those like us who are miles away can look on her website and also Facebook page and the blog as well, or can travel to Canada if they so wish.
Not with
you
COVID.
can travel to Canada if you so wish. I do have friends that do.
All right.
Right.
Okay, well, just time to say thank you so much again, and hope to get you on again, Kimberly, in the near future. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.